The private jet's wheels touched down on the rain-slicked tarmac at 3:47 p.m., 2 days ahead of schedule. Marcus Wellington didn't notice the time. He was already reaching for his phone, fingers dancing across the screen with the precision of a man who built empires one calculated decision at a time. But something made him pause. Maybe it was the gray clouds gathering over the city skyline, or the way the autumn light filtered through the jet's tinted windows. Maybe it was the silence. For the first time in 3 weeks of back-to-back meetings across 4 continents, Marcus Wellington felt the weight of quiet. "Sir?" James, his personal driver, appeared at the jet's doorway. "The car is ready. Shall I take you directly to the office?" Marcus hesitated. The merger documents could wait. "Home, James," he said, surprising himself. "Take me home." The Bentley glided through the city streets like a shark through still water. Marcus stared out at the world beyond his tinted windows, people hurrying with umbrellas, children being picked up from schools, couples holding hands at crosswalks. Normal life. Life that had become foreign to him over the past year. The Wellington estate sat on 47 acres of manicured perfection. The iron gates opened automatically as James approached. As they wound up the mile-long driveway, past sculptured gardens and the marble fountain that Emma used to throw pennies into before her mother died, Marcus felt that familiar tightening in his chest. The mansion rose before them like something from another century, 53 rooms, 17 bathrooms, enough space for a family of 20. But for the past 11 months, it had housed only a billionaire and his 8-year-old daughter, rattling around like 2 marbles in a cathedral. "Shall I wait, sir?" James asked. "No. Take the evening off. I'll be staying in tonight." James raised an eyebrow, another surprise. Marcus Wellington never stayed in. But he simply nodded and drove away, leaving Marcus alone on his own doorstep. The front door was 30 feet of imported Italian walnut, carved with intricate designs that Sarah had spent months selecting. Inside, the marble foyer stretched upward toward a chandelier that cost more than most homes, each crystal catching the gray afternoon light. Silence. Not comfortable quiet, but something heavier. The kind of silence that felt like held breath. Marcus set his briefcase down and began walking toward the grand staircase. His Italian leather shoes clicked against marble with each step, echoing into the vaulted ceiling. But something felt different. The house felt occupied. Marcus paused at the foot of the stairs. Was that a sound? He tilted his head, listening. They're soft and distant, coming from the second floor. Laughter. His heart skipped. Not manufactured chuckles or polite titters. Real laughter. High and bright and breathless, the kind that bubbled up from somewhere deep and genuine. Emma. Marcus took the stairs 2 at a time. Emma hadn't laughed, really laughed, since before Sarah's funeral. The grief counselors said it was normal, that children processed loss differently, that it might take years. But this sound, this beautiful sound echoing through their too-big house, was everything he'd been hoping to hear for 11 months. The laughter was coming from Emma's room, the door slightly ajar. Marcus slowed as he approached. Who was with her? The nannies had strict instructions about his schedule, about maintaining Emma's routine. No unauthorized visitors, no deviation from the carefully structured day he designed to give his daughter stability. Through the narrow opening, he could see a slice of Emma's room, the white canopy bed, the bookshelf filled with stories Sarah used to read aloud, the window seat where his wife would sit and brush Emma's hair while they watched sunsets paint the gardens gold. And then the dragon realized, a voice was saying, warm and animated with a trace of southern accent, that all this time, she wasn't scary at all. She was just lonely. Marcus's brow furrowed. He didn't recognize the voice. It wasn't Mrs. Pemberton, the stern British nanny. This voice was different, younger, softer, with a musical quality that seemed to dance around the words. What happened next? Emma's voice, barely above a whisper but clear as crystal. Marcus's breath caught. Emma had been responding to questions with nods and shakes for months. Even with Dr. Meadows, the child psychologist, she rarely spoke more than a few words. Well, the voice continued, the dragon looked around her cave and realized it was awfully big and awfully empty for just one dragon. So she decided to do something brave. What? Emma asked, and Marcus could hear the smile in her voice. She opened her door and invited the whole village in for tea. Emma giggled, actually giggled, and the sound hit Marcus like a physical force. When was the last time he'd heard her laugh? Before the accident, certainly. Before that terrible night when Sarah's car hit black ice, spinning out of control on the winding mountain road. Before the phone call that shattered their perfect life into pieces so small Marcus still wasn't sure how to put them back together. He leaned closer to the door, trying to see more. Emma was sitting cross-legged on her bed, still in her school uniform, navy blazer and plaid skirt of Westfield Academy. Her blonde hair, so much like her mother's, was pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of the perfect braids Mrs. Pemberton usually insisted upon. And beside her, sitting on the edge of the bed with a picture book open in her lap, was a woman Marcus had never seen before. She was young, mid-20s, maybe, with rich brown skin and natural hair pulled back with a colorful headband. She wore simple clothes, dark jeans and a soft yellow sweater that looked like it came from a department store rather than a designer boutique. Her feet were bare, painted toenails peeking out from rolled cuffs. She looked nothing like the professional caregivers Marcus employed, with their starched uniforms and clipboard efficiency. She looked real. Mrs. Keisha, Emma said, turning the book's page carefully, do you think the dragon was scared? I think, Keisha said thoughtfully, that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when your heart is beating so fast you think it might jump right out of your chest. Emma nodded solemnly. Like when Mommy had to get shots at the doctor's office, and she held my hand even though she was scared of needles. Marcus's hand tightened on the doorframe. Emma had been talking about Sarah. With a stranger. Sharing memories she'd kept locked away for almost a year. Exactly like that, Keisha said gently. Your mama sounds like she was very brave. She was, Emma said, her voice getting smaller. She was brave about everything. Even when she was sick. Marcus's world tilted. Sick? Sarah hadn't been sick. The accident was sudden, unexpected. He started to push the door open, to correct this misunderstanding, but Keisha was already responding. Sometimes being sick isn't about your body, sweet girl. Sometimes people's hearts get sick when they're worried or sad or scared, and they have to be extra brave to take care of the people they love. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Marcus found himself holding his breath. I think my heart is sick too, Emma whispered finally. It hurts all the time. Keisha set the book aside and turned to face Emma fully. That's called missing someone. And you know what? That sick feeling in your heart? That's actually love with nowhere to go. All the love you have for your mama is still there, but she can't take it from you anymore, so it just sits in your heart making you feel full and empty at the same time. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. What do I do with it? You share it, Keisha said simply. You find other people who need love and you give them some of that extra love you've got stored up. That way, your mama's love keeps moving in the world instead of just sitting still. Marcus watched his daughter consider this, her 8-year-old mind working through concepts that grief counselors had spent months trying to explain in clinical terms. But somehow, this young woman, this stranger, had found a way to reach Emma that no professional had managed. Can I share some with you? Emma asked, and Marcus felt his throat close up completely. Oh, honey, Keisha said, her voice thick with emotion, I would be honored to carry some of your mama's love. Emma launched herself forward, wrapping her arms around Keisha's neck in a fierce hug. Keisha held her tight, rocking slightly, whispering words too soft for Marcus to hear. But he could see Emma's shoulders shaking, could see 11 months of held-back tears finally finding their way out in the safety of a stranger's arms. And Marcus Wellington, master of the universe, billionaire extraordinaire, stood frozen in the hallway of his own home, watching his daughter heal in the arms of a woman he'd never met, feeling like a stranger in his own life. Before we reveal what happens when Marcus finally steps into that room, and why this discovery will change everything he thought he knew about his own family, smash that subscribe button if you love stories that challenge everything you think you know. And drop a comment, what do you think Marcus should do? Should he interrupt this moment, or let his daughter continue healing? Let's see who can guess what happens next. Marcus stepped back from the door, his heart hammering against his ribs. Who was this woman? How had she gotten past his security, his carefully vetted staff, his layers of protection designed to keep the world at bay? And why was Emma responding to her in ways she hadn't responded to anyone since Sarah died? He pulled out his phone, fingers hovering over Malcolm Pierce's contact, head of his security team. One call would have this intruder removed, investigated, banned from ever coming near his family again. His thumb moved toward Malcolm's number, then stopped. Emma's laughter drifted out again, softer now but still there. Still real. Marcus closed the phone. Instead, he walked quietly to his bedroom suite, closing the door with the softest click. The room was exactly as he'd left it 3 weeks ago, perfectly made bed, no personal items except a single silver frame containing a photo of Sarah, Emma, and himself from last Christmas. Sarah's side of the massive walk-in closet remained untouched, her clothes still hanging in perfect order. Marcus sat heavily on the bed's edge and called the one person who might have answers. Mr. Wellington? Mrs. Pemberton's voice was crisp, though he could hear surprise. I wasn't expecting you back until Thursday. The meetings ended early, Marcus said, keeping his voice level. Mrs. Pemberton, who is with Emma right now? A pause. Sir? There's someone in her room. A young woman named Keisha. Who is she? The silence stretched long enough that Marcus wondered if the call had dropped. Finally, Mrs. Pemberton cleared her throat. Sir, I must apologize. I should have informed you immediately, but you were in crucial negotiations, and I didn't want to. Who is she? Marcus's voice could freeze steel when he chose. Keisha Williams, Mrs. Pemberton said quickly. She's part of the domestic staff. The cleaning service sent her as a replacement when Maria went on maternity leave. But sir, there's been a complication. What kind of complication? Miss Williams has been exceeding her duties. I found her reading to Emma yesterday, and when I attempted to redirect her back to cleaning responsibilities, Emma became quite upset. She refused to eat dinner or do her homework until Miss Williams returned. The pieces began falling into place. How long has she been working here? 2 weeks, sir. And I must say, her cleaning work is exemplary. The house has never been more thorough. But she's been spending time with Emma. Another pause. Yes, sir. Against my explicit instructions about maintaining professional boundaries. I was planning to request a replacement, but every time I've attempted to discuss it with Emma, she becomes distressed. Marcus rubbed his forehead. In the business world, unauthorized contact with his family would result in immediate termination and possible legal action. But Emma's laughter echoed in his memory, the sound of his daughter being truly happy for the first time in almost a year. Send me her file, Marcus said. And Mrs. Pemberton? Don't mention that I'm home. Not yet. Of course, sir. But may I ask, what should I do about Miss Williams? Marcus walked to the window, looking out over gardens where Emma used to play before grief turned her inward. Everything beautiful and perfect and lifeless. Nothing, he said finally. Do nothing until I figure out what's happening. He ended the call and opened his laptop. Keisha Williams's file was already waiting, forwarded by Mrs. Pemberton with typical efficiency. The photo showed a young woman with kind eyes and a professional smile, wearing interview clothes, simple black blazer over white blouse. Nothing like the relaxed, natural person he'd seen sitting on Emma's bed in bare feet and a yellow sweater. Keisha Marie Williams, age 26. Born in Atlanta, Georgia. Bachelor's degree in elementary education from Georgia State University, graduated magna cum laude. Teaching certificate, specialized in early childhood development. No criminal record, excellent credit score, references that read like love letters. But the employment history told a different story. After graduation, she'd taught at Riverside Elementary for 3 years with stellar performance reviews. Then, abruptly, she'd moved to the city and taken a job with Premium Domestic Services. No explanation for the career change. Marcus scrolled through references. Margaret Chen, principal. Keisha was one of the most gifted educators I've had the privilege to work with. Her students adored her, and she had a particular talent for reaching children who struggled with traditional learning approaches. The testimonials continued, a gifted educator who'd left teaching abruptly and now cleaned houses for a living. It made no sense. Marcus closed the laptop and walked back toward Emma's room. The laughter had stopped, replaced by soft conversation. And that's why the stars only come out at night, Keisha was saying. They're shy. During the day, they hide behind the sun's bright light, but when it gets dark, they feel brave enough to show everyone how beautiful they are. I wish I could be like a star, Emma said wistfully. What do you mean, sweetheart? Sometimes I feel like I'm hiding behind something too. Like there's a big bright light that's too scary to come out from behind. Marcus pressed closer to the door. Emma had been in therapy for months, but she'd never articulated her feelings this clearly. Dr. Meadows had worried that Emma was too young to process her grief verbally. That's very wise, Keisha said gently. What do you think your bright light is? Emma was quiet for so long that Marcus wondered if she decided not to answer. Finally, in a voice so small he had to strain to hear it, she said, I think it's Daddy. Marcus felt the floor drop out from under him. Tell me about that, Keisha said, careful neutrality in her voice. He's so sad all the time, Emma whispered. Even when he smiles, his eyes are sad. And I think if I'm too happy, it will make him sadder. Because Mommy can't be happy anymore, so maybe I shouldn't be either. The words hit Marcus like physical blows. He pressed his hand against the wall, needing support. She'd been protecting him. For 11 months, she'd been dimming her own light to avoid making his darkness feel darker. Oh, honey, Keisha said, probably pulling Emma closer. Your daddy loves you more than anything in this whole world. And you know what would make him happiest of all? What? Seeing you shine as bright as you're meant to shine. Parents don't want their children to be sad because they're sad. They want their children to be so happy and bright that it reminds them how to be happy again. Marcus closed his eyes, overwhelmed by the wisdom of this young woman who'd understood in 2 weeks what he'd been too buried in grief to see in 11 months. Keisha? Emma's voice was getting drowsy. Yeah, baby? Do you think Mommy would want me to be happy? I think your mommy would want you to be exactly who you are, with all your happiness and all your sadness and everything in between. And I think she'd want you to know that you can love her and miss her and still laugh and play and be a little girl. Can you stay until I fall asleep? Of course I can. Marcus heard bedding rustle, Emma settling into pillows. He should leave, should give them privacy. Instead, he found himself sinking down to sit on the floor outside Emma's door, listening to Keisha humming a lullaby he didn't recognize. The melody was simple and sweet, with a melancholy undertone that somehow managed to be comforting rather than sad. This was what peace sounded like, he realized. This was what his house had been missing, not just Emma's laughter, but the deep contentment that came from genuine connection. The humming gradually faded to silence. Marcus heard soft footsteps, probably Keisha cleaning up toys, adjusting blankets, the small caretaking gestures that turned a bedroom into a sanctuary. The door opened. Marcus tried to stand quickly, but there was something about the way Keisha looked at him, no surprise, no guilt, just calm assessment, that made him realize she'd known he was there all along. Mr. Wellington, she said quietly, closing Emma's door with careful precision. I was wondering when you'd make yourself known. She was younger than he'd thought, probably closer to 24, but there was something in her eyes that suggested she'd seen more of the world than her age would indicate. Up close, Marcus could see the exhaustion she'd been hiding from Emma, bone-deep tiredness that came from carrying emotional weight that wasn't yours to carry. How did you know I was here? He asked, trying to regain some semblance of authority. "Emma has your eyes," Keisha said simply. "When she looks at me, I can see you looking back sometimes. Plus, you were breathing pretty loudly during the star conversation." Despite everything, Marcus found himself fighting back a smile. When was the last time someone had teased him? "We need to talk," he said. "Yes," Keisha agreed, "we do." They walked together toward the main staircase, their footsteps muffled by thick Persian carpet. Marcus was acutely aware of the woman beside him, the way she moved with quiet confidence through his house, like she belonged there, like the opulent surroundings didn't intimidate her. "She'll sleep for a couple of hours," Keisha said softly. "She always does after we talk about the hard stuff. It's like her brain needs time to process everything." "You've had other conversations like that with her?" Keisha met his gaze directly. "Every day. She has a lot to process." They made their way down to Marcus's study, the one room where he felt like himself, surrounded by awards and deal memorabilia. But as they walked through the formal living room with its museum-quality furniture that no one ever sat on, past the dining room with its table that seated 20 but usually served only one, Marcus began seeing his home through Keisha's eyes. It was beautiful. It was perfect. It was completely sterile. The study was different, warm woods, leather furniture worn soft by use, books that had actually been read. Marcus gestured toward a chair facing his desk, but Keisha remained standing. "Before you say anything," she said, "I need you to know that I wasn't trying to overstep. I was hired to clean your house, and I've done that. But Emma needed more than a clean house." "You're a teacher," Marcus said, settling behind his desk. "Was a teacher. Now I clean houses." "Why?" The question hung between them. Keisha moved to the window, looking out at gardens beginning to lose their autumn color. "Same reason you haven't moved your wife's clothes out of your closet," she said finally. "Sometimes when life breaks you apart, you need to do something completely different just to keep breathing." Marcus felt like she'd slapped him. No one knew about Sarah's clothes. He'd told Mrs. Pemberton he would handle it himself, but months had passed and he still couldn't touch anything that smelled like her perfume. "That's not the same thing. Isn't it?" Keisha turned to face him. "You built this beautiful life, this perfect family, and then something terrible happened. So you threw yourself into work, control, fixing problems with money and power. I built a beautiful life too, teaching children, helping them discover who they were meant to be. Then something terrible happened to me too. So I threw myself into taking care of houses instead of hearts." Marcus stared at her, this young woman who diagnosed his entire approach to grief with more accuracy than expensive therapy sessions. "What happened to you?" Keisha's composure flickered. "I had a student. Jamie. 7 years old, bright as sunshine, but his home life was complicated. His parents were going through a messy divorce, lots of fighting, lots of chaos. He started acting out at school, getting into fights, failing tests he should have passed easily." She sat down finally, hands folded in her lap. "I thought I could help him. I thought if I just tried hard enough, cared enough, gave him enough attention and support, I could be the stability he needed while his world fell apart. What happened? His parents pulled him from school mid-year. Moved to another state as part of the custody battle. I tried to stay in touch, but kids get lost in the system sometimes." Marcus waited, sensing there was more. 6 months later, I got a call from his new teacher. Jamie had been hospitalized for a suicide attempt. 7 years old, and he'd tried to. Her voice broke slightly. "The teacher said he'd been asking for me. Said he thought I'd abandoned him like everyone else." The silence was deafening. Marcus understood now, the same guilt that kept him working 18-hour days to avoid coming home to memories. "That's when I stopped teaching," Keisha continued. "I couldn't trust myself anymore. Couldn't risk caring that much about another child and failing them when they needed me most." "But you care about Emma." Keisha smiled sadly. "I tried not to. The first day here, I planned to clean her room quickly and get out. But she was sitting by her window, so still and quiet, with these eyes holding so much sadness. I recognized that look. The look of a child who's learned the world isn't safe, that people leave, that love hurts. So you broke your own rules. I decided maybe Jamie taught me something important, not that I shouldn't love children, but that I should do it better. More carefully. With more intention. Marcus processed everything she'd told him. The business part of his brain cataloged risks, but the father part, dormant for 11 months, focused on something else entirely. Emma said something earlier. About hiding behind a bright light that was too scary to come out from behind. She said she thought the light was me. Keisha nodded. She's been protecting you. Children do that when they see their parents drowning in grief. They make themselves smaller so they don't add to the weight you're carrying. But I never asked her to do that. Of course not. But Emma is 8 years old. She understands the world through emotion, not logic. She knows you're sad. She knows her mother is gone. In her mind, Mommy died, Daddy is sad, therefore Emma being happy might make Daddy sadder. Marcus put his head in his hands. I've been failing her. You've been drowning, Keisha said gently. There's a difference. They sat in silence as rain patted against windows. Outside, afternoon faded toward evening. What do I do now? He asked, surprised by how vulnerable he sounded. You start showing up, Keisha said. Not as CEO Marcus Wellington who can solve problems with money. Just as Emma's dad. I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do. You did it for her first 7 years, didn't you? Marcus closed his eyes, remembering. Saturday morning pancake breakfasts where Emma would help measure ingredients and spill flour everywhere. Bedtime stories where she'd interrupt with questions about characters' motivations. Dance recitals where she'd scan the audience until she found him, then beam like he was the most important person alive. That was different. Sarah was there then. Sarah knew how to connect with her. I just provided. That's not what Emma remembers, Keisha said firmly. She doesn't talk about the house or clothes or trips. She talks about you reading stories with different voices for every character. About you teaching her to ride her bike, running alongside her for hours. About how you used to make funny voices for all her stuffed animals. Marcus blinked in surprise. He'd forgotten about the voices, Mr. Snuggles the bear with his British accent, Princess Sparkles the unicorn with her lisp, Captain Whiskers the perpetually gruff cat. It seemed like someone else's life. She remembers that? She remembers all of it. But right now, she's more afraid of making you sadder than she is of staying sad herself. A sound from upstairs, Emma calling out in her sleep. Probably a dream. She'd been having them more frequently. Keisha started to rise, but Marcus held up a hand. Let me. He found Emma sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face, clutching Mr. Snuggles. She looked impossibly small in the enormous canopy bed. Daddy, she whispered when she saw him. I'm here, sweetheart. Marcus sat on the bed's edge like he used to when she was little. Bad dream? Emma nodded. I dreamed that you went away on another trip and forgot to come back. The words were like a knife to his chest. How many trips had he taken this past year? How many times had he left Emma with caregivers while he buried himself in work? I'm not going anywhere, he said, meaning it completely. I'm staying right here with you. But what about your work? Mrs. Pemberton says you have very important business that can't wait. Marcus looked at his daughter, really looked at her. She was thinner, more angular, her eyes larger in her pale face. When had she gotten so tall? Nothing is more important than you, he said, feeling the truth settle into his bones. I'm sorry I forgot that for a while. Emma's eyes widened with hope. You're not mad at me? Mad at you? Why would I be mad? Because I've been happy sometimes. With Keisha. And I thought maybe that made you sadder because Mommy can't be happy anymore. Marcus felt his heart break and heal simultaneously. He pulled Emma into his arms, holding her like he used to when she was tiny. "Oh, baby girl," he whispered into her hair. "I am never, ever mad at you for being happy. Being happy doesn't mean you don't miss mommy. It just means you're still growing and becoming the amazing person you're supposed to be." Emma pulled back to search his face. "Really? Really? And you know what would make me happiest of all?" "What?" Marcus smiled genuinely for the first time in 11 months. "Seeing you laugh every single day. Seeing you make friends and try new things and get excited about the world. That's what mommy would want too. Can I tell you something?" Emma whispered. "Anything in the world. I really like Keisha. She makes me feel like it's okay to be sad and happy at the same time." Marcus glanced toward the door. "I like her too." "Really? You're not going to send her away? Really? She helped you remember how to laugh. That makes her pretty special." Emma's smile was like sunrise through storm clouds. "Does this mean she can stay? Not just as the cleaning lady, but as part of our family?" Marcus tucked hair behind Emma's ear, the gesture natural as muscle memory. "If she wants to stay, then yes. As part of our family. Forever. For as long as she wants to be here." Emma launched herself forward, wrapping her arms around his neck in a fierce hug. "Can you ask her to come up? I want to tell her about my dream. The good part this time." "What was the good part?" "After I got scared about you not coming back, suddenly you were there and you brought Keisha with you, and we all made pancakes together like we used to with mommy. Except Keisha made funny faces at the pancakes, and I giggled so hard I got syrup on my nose." Marcus felt tears, different from the past 11 months. These were tears of possibility, of hope, of a future that could still be beautiful. "I'll get her," Marcus said. "But first, tomorrow is Saturday. How about we make pancakes for real? All 3 of us?" Emma's face lit up like Christmas morning. "With the funny voices from Mr. Snuggles and everyone?" Marcus grinned, feeling like himself for the first time in a year. "Especially with the funny voices. If this story is hitting you in the feels, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional journeys that'll make you see the world differently. Comment below, have you ever had someone unexpected change your life completely? We want to hear your stories. 3 months later. The Wellington mansion felt different. Not because of any physical changes, the marble floors still gleamed, the crystal chandelier still cast rainbows on walls. But there was something in the air that hadn't been there before. Laughter. Real, genuine, everyday laughter that bubbled up from the kitchen where Marcus Wellington, billionaire extraordinaire, stood at the stove in bare feet and pajama pants, wielding a spatula like a magic wand. "Abracadabra, alakazoo, these pancakes are made especially for you," he declared in an exaggerated wizard voice, flipping a pancake perfectly. Emma giggled from her perch on the counter, legs swinging, flour in her hair and syrup already on her cheek. "Do Mr. Snuggles next." Marcus cleared his throat, dropping his voice to a gravelly British accent. "Right then, Miss Emma, these pancakes better be properly fluffy or there'll be trouble." "That's terrible," Keisha laughed from the breakfast nook, setting the table with good china, because Marcus had decided every Saturday morning deserved good china. "Mr. Snuggles sounds like a grumpy old man." "Excuse me," Marcus said with mock indignation, "but Mr. Snuggles has very sophisticated tastes. He went to Cambridge." "Cambridge?" Emma burst into giggles. "Daddy, teddy bears don't go to college. This one did. He has a degree in advanced cuddling and a minor in honey studies." The easy banter filled the kitchen with warmth that had everything to do with the 3 people who had somehow become a family. Not the family Marcus had planned, but the family they'd chosen to become. It hadn't been easy. The first few weeks had been full of difficult conversations, tentative steps, moments when Marcus wondered if he was doing everything wrong. There had been lawyers to consult about Keisha's official role, background checks, endless paperwork to make her transition from cleaning lady to family member legally sound. But mostly, there had been small moments building into something bigger. Emma teaching Keisha how to French braid hair. Marcus and Keisha tag-teaming bedtime stories. The three of them working in Sarah's garden, planting new flowers alongside her roses, creating something that honored the past while embracing the future. Mrs. Pemberton had left within a month, claiming discomfort with the new arrangements. Marcus had thanked her and sent her away with generous severance. Dr. Meadows had been thrilled with Emma's progress. "It's remarkable," she'd told Marcus. "She's processing her grief in a much healthier way now. Whatever you're doing at home, keep doing it." What they were doing was simple: showing up. Being present. Allowing themselves to be imperfect and sad and happy and human, all at the same time. "Pancakes are ready," Marcus announced, sliding the last one onto the serving plate with theatrical flair. Emma scrambled down and raced to the table, where Keisha was pouring orange juice into glasses that probably cost more than most people's salaries but felt perfectly ordinary in this context. "Wait," Emma said suddenly, stopping. "We forgot something." Marcus and Keisha exchanged glances. Emma was always adding new traditions to their growing collection. "What did we forget, sweetheart?" Marcus asked. Emma ran to the living room and returned with a silver picture frame, the one that had sat on Marcus's nightstand for 11 months, containing the last photo of the three of them before Sarah died. Now it sat on the kitchen windowsill, where morning light could catch it. "We have to tell Mommy about the pancakes," Emma said matter-of-factly. "She always liked to know what we were having for breakfast." Marcus felt his throat tighten, but not with sharp grief. This was different: sadness mixed with gratitude, loss mixed with love. "You're right," he said softly. "What should we tell her?" Emma picked up the frame carefully. "Hi, Mommy. We made pancakes today, and Daddy did all the funny voices, and Keisha taught me how to make the batter extra fluffy. We saved you some, just in case you get hungry in heaven." She set the frame back with reverence, then turned to them with a bright smile, as if talking to her dead mother was the most natural thing in the world. Maybe it was. Maybe Emma had figured out something that had taken him 11 months to learn: that love didn't end when someone died, it just changed shape. "Now we can eat," Emma announced, climbing into her chair with satisfaction. As they passed around pancakes and syrup and argued about chocolate chips and breakfast food, Marcus marveled at how ordinary it all felt. How right. 6 months ago, if someone had told him he'd be having breakfast with his daughter and a woman who used to clean his house, discussing teddy bear education and talking to pictures of his deceased wife, he would have suggested therapy. Now, he couldn't imagine starting his day any other way. "I have something to talk to you both about," Marcus said as they finished eating. Emma looked up with mild alarm. "Good something or serious something?" "Good something," Marcus assured her. "I hope." He reached into his pajama pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Before either could get the wrong idea, he opened it to reveal not a ring, but a key. A house key, small and silver and ordinary. "Keisha," he said, his voice suddenly formal. "For 3 months, you've been living here as our guest. But guests eventually leave, and we don't want you to leave." Keisha's eyes widened. "Marcus, what are you saying?" "I'm saying this is your home now, if you want it to be. Not as an employee, not as a favor, but as family. This key means you belong here. It means Emma has someone who will always show up for her, and I have someone who reminds me how to be the father I want to be." Emma was bouncing in her chair with excitement, understanding this was a moment for adults to navigate. "I can't ask you to give up your whole life for us," Marcus continued. "But I can offer you a different life with us. If you want it." Keisha stared at the key, then at Marcus, then at Emma, who was practically vibrating with hope. "What exactly are you offering?" "A job, if you want to think of it that way. Emma's full-time companion, tutor, friend. Someone who helps her navigate growing up without her mother. Someone who helps me navigate being the kind of father she deserves." Marcus set the key on the table. "But more than that, I'm offering you a place in our family. Legal guardianship papers, if something ever happens to me. Your own wing of the house, your own space, your own life, but connected to ours. And what do you get out of this?" I get to watch my daughter grow up with someone who loves her unconditionally. I get to learn from someone who understands that healing isn't about fixing what's broken, it's about creating something new from the pieces that remain. Marcus smiled. And maybe, if I'm lucky, I get a friend who will call me out when I'm being an idiot and remind me that teddy bears don't actually go to Cambridge. Emma couldn't contain herself. Please say yes, she burst out. Please, please, please. We're so much better when you're here, and I don't want to go back to being sad all the time, and Daddy smiles now, and we make the best pancakes, and... Emma, Marcus said gently, let Keisha think. But Keisha was already reaching for the key, her fingers closing around it like it was the most precious thing she'd ever held. I don't need to think about it, she said, voice thick with emotion. I've been part of this family since the day Emma asked me to share her mother's love with her. I just didn't know if you'd want me to stay. Stay, Marcus said simply. Please stay. Forever? Emma asked, hope shining in her eyes. Keisha looked at the little girl who had taught her that love wasn't something to be afraid of, then at the man who had learned to trust his heart again, then at the kitchen where they'd built something beautiful out of grief and unexpected grace. Forever, she promised. Emma launched herself into Keisha's arms, and Marcus joined the hug, the three of them wrapped around each other in morning light streaming through windows. Later, after Emma had run upstairs to tell all her stuffed animals the news and Marcus had called his lawyers to begin paperwork that would make their unconventional family legally official, he and Keisha sat in the garden where Sarah's roses bloomed alongside new flowers they'd planted together. Are you sure about this? Keisha asked. Emma's going to be a teenager someday, and I have no idea what I'm doing with teenagers. Marcus laughed. I have no idea what I'm doing with 8-year-olds, so I think we're even. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over gardens, listening to Emma's voice drifting from her bedroom window as she played and narrated elaborate adventures. Can I tell you something? Marcus said finally. Always. The day I found you in Emma's room, I thought my world was falling apart. I thought someone had invaded our space, disrupted our routine, threatened our security. And now? Marcus smiled, thinking about pancakes and funny voices and the way his daughter had learned to laugh again. Now I think you saved our lives. Keisha reached over and took his hand, the gesture simple and warm and completely without romantic intent. Just one person letting another know they weren't alone. We saved each other, she said. That's what families do. As if to prove her point, Emma's voice called down, Daddy. Keisha! Come up here. Mr. Snuggles wants to show you his new degree in pancake appreciation. Marcus and Keisha looked at each other and burst into laughter. We should probably go see about that degree, Marcus said, standing and offering Keisha his hand. We probably should, she agreed, taking it. As they walked back toward the house, toward Emma, in the evening routine they'd built together, Marcus marveled at how a life could be completely destroyed and completely rebuilt at the same time. How love could end and begin in the same moment. How a family could be born not from blood or law, but from choice and commitment and the simple decision to show up for each other every day. Behind them, Sarah's roses swayed in evening breeze, and ahead of them, their daughter was waiting with a teddy bear and a story and the absolute certainty that tomorrow would bring more pancakes, more laughter, more love than any of them knew what to do with. And that, Marcus thought as Emma's laughter echoed through the house that was finally, truly home, was the best kind of problem to have. Stories like this remind us that the people who change our lives often come from the most unexpected places. If you believe in the power of chosen family and second chances, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss our emotional storytelling videos. Drop a comment and tell us about someone who unexpectedly changed your life. We read every single one and your stories inspire our next videos. And hey, where in the world are you watching from? We love connecting with our global family of viewers who understand that love isn't always about blood, sometimes it's about choice, courage, and the willingness to build something beautiful from broken pieces. Until next time, stay open to unexpected connections and keep believing in the power of love over prejudice.